less. Anyway, last week's Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, insisted he was voting against the Republican spending bill, but he had a last-minute change of heart and helped the GOP get the bill passed. So this is not going over well with a lot of his fellow Democrats, but he says it was the smart play. Take a look.
While voting for this CR is bad, it's a whole lot worse to vote to shut down the government. Elon Musk, Doge, and Donald Trump will use the power to shut down the government to fire hundreds of thousands, if not millions of workers, shut down whole departments, and shrink the government for tax cuts for billionaires. It will be devastating, something like we have never seen before.
Have you lost confidence in him, the fact that you guys see this so differently?
Next question.
I think there is a deep sense of outrage and betrayal. Just to see Senate Democrats even consider acquiescing to Elon Musk, I think it is a huge slap in the face.
I think Senate Democrats have to sit down and take a look and decide whether or not Chuck Schumer is the one to lead in this moment.
So Senator Schumer is going to be here tomorrow. So we'll have, so we'll have a lot to talk about. But what did you think about the last minute 360 or 180 on the bill? Anybody?
I agree.
Next question.
I think that he had two awful options, and this was the one that he chose. And I actually agree. A government shutdown never looks good on the party that seems to be the one that's asking for it. And the Dems had this option, and I don't see it as acquiescing. I don't see it as anything. Right now, we're watching as the big criticism, when we've spoken at this table about it multiple times, is Doge and Elon Musk. There are 24 cases in court right now questioning whether he has the authority to do that, whether it's constitutional. You shut the government down. You gave them legal permission for the executive branch to do whatever the hell he wants. Right now, with leaving it on Doge, you're taking the target off of their back, Trump and Elon Musk, and putting it all on the Democrats. It's just, this was the only option.
Can I tell you, I love you, but I don't buy that that explanation from you or from Schumer, because they're already doing that. They're doing it illegally or legally. They don't care about what the court is telling. I mean,
but do you care? Do you care that one has a leg to stand on in the courts that says this is not constitutional, which I will stand beside and continue to hope the courts hold out? But this is just take off all the guardrails and let them do whatever the hell they want.
I think that when the Democratic base is hearing Chuck Schumer say, the reason that I'm going to support this funding bill is because if not, it's going to give Trump and Elon the power to fire federal workers and to get rid of departments. They're already doing that. So it's like me saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to get out of the shower, but I'm not going to go outside and stand in the rain because I'm already wet. They're already soaking wet. They're already fired.
I don't think anyone...
It doesn't matter what I care about. It's already happening. You'll say, we can stand here on principle and care a lot about things.
It's in the courts, Anna. It's in the courts.
And they pay no attention to the court judgments. They ignore them.
If no one used federal workers as pawns, and that's what happens in a shutdown. I generally agree with Schumer, though I think his messaging on this was a disaster. He made people believe he was going to fight and he wasn't going to vote for this, and then he flipped and ultimately did. No one wins in a government shutdown. It costs the economy billions of dollars.
Well, Congress still gets paid, so they're fine.
Federal workers who have kind of been in the middle of this back and forth aren't going to get paid. And here's the thing that most people don't know. Who decides what stays open in a government shutdown? The Office of Management and Budget, which is run by a man appointed by Donald Trump named Russ Vought. You all may remember he's known as the architect of Project 2025. Now, do you think he's going to keep the goods and services Democrats care the most about open?
Nope.
No, he's going to prioritize what actually supports Donald Trump's agenda. And they would keep the government shut down effectively as long as they wanted to. There's no concession Democrats would have to make concessions to reopen it. It would literally actually implement Doge without having to have Doge in place. I think he did the prudent, responsible thing. I get wanting a fight, but what you fight on matters.
I think what you fight on matters, too. And I think, again, that this was a fight that needed to happen, and it didn't happen because of Chuck Schumer. If you think about it, Republicans would have had to own that government shutdown. It's what they have control of everything, and it would have been squarely on their backs. And I am not alone in this opinion. Nancy Pelosi, of all people, actually went so far as to say, let's be clear, Neither is a good option for the American people, but this false choice that some are buying instead of fighting is unacceptable. Someone else, Anna Cabrera, the chief of staff for Illinois Governor Pritzker, who we had here, argued that the party could unify around a fight against Trump. The fight going on in the Democratic Party right now is not between the hard left, the left, and moderate. It's between those who want to fight and those who want to cave. I want a party that doesn't want to cave. I want a party that's an opposition party, because what Schumer just did is he cleared the way for Donald Trump and Elon Musk to gut Social Security, to cut Medicare, to cut Medicaid. That is unacceptable, and it's past time for Democrats to fight and stop acting like it's business as usual and fighting by the rules, because the rule book has been thrown out by the Republican Party, and that is just the truth.
How would the government reopen if we went into a shutdown? Because it would only be Democrats who would have to come to the table, considering that
they're the minority
the executive branch could just keep functioning
Let the
as it chooses
Republicans
to.
do what Republicans do.
Which is what, though?
You know
what's
what,
the
though?
answer to
They're
that?
destroying this
Look,
country.
I've always told you
But
that
how would the government reopen?
Republicans and Democrats are cut from a different cloth, right? And frankly, Democrats don't have the transactional callousness to let people feel the pain of a government shutdown, because there is pain. There are government workers that are furloughed. There are departments that are shut down. There are benefits that are not received.
Government's gonna do
and
it.
they just don't have that kind of
Republicans are gonna
spine
do it
and
anyway.
evil in them to let that happen and let people
most of
flail
them
in the
did.
wind.
I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait personally.
The majority voted.
Because I want to ask him right when he's sitting there. Please explain this and why you think this was the better choice. Because there was no great choice here. So I want to hear why he thought what he was doing was the better thing to do. You know, I would like everybody to do something totally different, but they're not. You know, I want Democrats to tell the people, listen, we are boring. We're not cute. We're not funny. We're not quippy. All we know how to do is get stuff done. We don't know how to hang with the guys that like to make the...
Around for the latest episode of As the World Turns Slightly Unhinged. First up, our beloved former, what word are we using for DT? The president. He seems to have more trouble navigating Air Force One than a drunk leprechaun on roller skates during today a St. Patrick's Day parade. Seriously, every time he steps on Air Force One, it's like watching a live episode of Dancing with the Stars, but with more gravity, less grace, and like Judge Janine Pirro has been at the wine box. Anyway, speaking of St. Patrick's Day, let's not forget our favourite political leprechaun, Marco Rubio. Oh, little Marco, always dressed like he's about to grant you 3 wishes. If only one of those wishes could be for a coherent policy idea. Possible. Rubio flips more positions more often than a pancake at a roadside diner, and with less sizzle as well. Rubio is actually like a magic trick gone wrong. Every time he opens his mouth, well, his credibility disappears. Did he have any in the first place? Should we throw in Chuck Schumer, TikTok, the master of the Senate shuffle? That guy's got to go. Chuck's the kind of guy who'd bring a spreadsheet to a potluck. Lately, he's just been dancing around the gob. Well, he's been getting on his knees and whatever. It's like last call at an Irish pub, trying to decide whether to be the hero or the designated driver. It's just Chuck. There's a really, really good expression. Chuck off might be the word. It's like watching your grandpa trying to use or play Minecraft. He's not sure what he's doing. I'm not even going to say bless his heart. He's trying. Time's up. Boat sailed. Jog off. Anyway, back to Trump. You know, he recently bought that red Tesla because nothing says I'm with the future like jumping into an electric car while trying to bring back coal jobs. I had no idea how that... Can he drive? He says he bought it because he likes doing things the old-fashioned way. I guess for him that means buying America from a company led by the world's richest South African. On a temporary work... Oh, he has a full work visa now. Okay. I'd love to see the receipt. Did he actually pay? Bad deal if he did. Have you seen Trump lately on the tarmac? The guy just, it's like teeters around like he's walking on a cobblestone street after a night out in, well, Dublin. Good night out, by the way. Air Force One might need to install those handlebars, you know, like you see in retirement of those adverts, the retirement home showers. Anyway, back to Rubio. Bless his heart, excuse me. Keeps trying to catch the rainbow in the Senate, but it turns out it's just the neon light from the Democrats leaving him behind. What's going on with the Democrats? Marco's got that magical ability to be both everywhere and nowhere in every policy debate. He is like a leprechaun, only less effective and definitely less lucky. And Chuck Schumer, navigating Congress like a sober man at Mardi Gras. He's been wrangling his party like cats at the dog show. Chuck, again? Look, he was asked about his stance on the latest budget. I think Chuck probably wishes he could just blend into the background like a chameleon at a Skittles factory. Anyway, as St. Patrick's Day rolls around and everyone's feeling a bit Irish, let's raise a glass, mug of hot chocolate, to our political cause. May your words be sharp, your stances be firm, and may none of you ever find yourself trying to dance a jig on Air Force One. Because let's face it, some spectacles are just too painful to watch. Well, to be fair, I'm enjoying Schumer. I mean, grind it, and then again, chuck off.
They could fire half the workers in the federal government. It would have been a far worse consequence.
So he's saying that the path that House Democrats wanted would have presented a worse consequence. Is he wrong?
He's absolutely wrong. I mean, look at the reality of the votes, right? I understand that the American people are frustrated. Please believe many of us did not sleep because we were calling and trying to impress upon the senators the importance of pushing back in this moment. And as you saw, we had all but one Democrat in the House that voted for this. So that's 212 Democrats in the House. And then you had the vast majority of senators vote for it or vote against it as well. And so the idea that Chuck Schumer is the only one that's got a brain in the room and the only one that can think through all of the pros and cons is absolutely ridiculous. And Jake, you and I both know that this administration could care less about whether or not they violate the law. We know that we've had to rely heavily upon the courts. And I want to say, as you're talking about the polling on my party, I want to say that it is the Democratic attorney generals and some governors that are standing up against this administration and bringing those lawsuits and winning every single time. They are losing in court. Could we do a better job of making sure that the American people know that we are winning in the courts? We probably could. But at the end of the day, it's still Democrats that are winning for the American people.
Some progressive groups are calling for new leadership in the Senate for Democrats. Even House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, your leader, he was asked if he supports Schumer as leader of the Senate Democrats, and he said, next question. Do you think Senate Democrats should replace Chuck Schumer?
I think Senate Democrats have to sit down and take a look and decide whether or not Chuck Schumer is the one to lead in this moment.
You're close with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. Some of your fellow House Democrats say, and not just progressives, by the way, we've heard that moderates have said this too, that they're ready to support her to challenge Chuck Schumer in a Democratic primary. Would you get behind that?
That's 4 years from now. If you were asking me at least in 2 years, then I would have an absolute answer. But I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are watching his leadership in this moment. This is the moment. We don't even know what elections will look like in 4 years if we will have elections. And so I definitely think that younger, fresher leadership may be something that many of us, not just depending on what part of the spectrum you're on, but many Americans may be looking for, especially in the state of New York.
Then the top Democrat in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, going as far as not saying he has confidence in Chuck Schumer. That was a remarkable moment on Friday. Now, we have learned that Schumer and Jeffries did meet behind closed doors yesterday in Brooklyn, trying to get back on the same page. They have huge and consequential fights ahead, but the backlash from the left is real. In fact, Wolf, Chuck Schumer is scheduled to do a book tour in a number of cities on a book that he has authored on anti-Semitism. He has just canceled that book tour, we are learning, morning because of protests that were scheduled from activist groups who wanted to go after his decision to agree and allow the government funding bill to go forward to avoid a government shutdown. They were furious at his decision to do that. It just shows you the anger on the left and the Democratic Party. Can they get it back together at this key moment when they are essentially leaderless in a lot of ways, essentially don't have a strategy on how to fight back against Trump, and have all this unrest on the Democratic base? That's going to be a big question for Schumer. But interesting that he decided to cancel this event. They're citing security concerns, but there were these large-scale protests, at least some protests scheduled outside these events.
Yeah, certainly that is notable. And it all comes, we should note, as the Democratic Party's favorability rating hit an all-time low, right? What's behind this?
Yeah, this is the lowest in CNN's polling in the last 30 years, a real warning sign for the Democratic Party right now. And it's really driven in large part, not just, as you can see on your screen, that 29% of voters have a favorable view of the Democratic Party. That is among all voters. But when you drill down into the numbers, Pamela and Wolf, the real issue is among Democratic voters themselves. They are starting to lose more and more confidence with their own party. And in fact, in that same poll, roughly 61% of Democratic voters view their party favorably, compared to Republican voters is about 78% or so of Republican and Republican-leaning voters view their party favorably. And this shift has been really remarkable since January 2017 until now, double digits in approval rating for the Democratic Party. So that's going to be a big question. And then what are the tactics for Democrats to employ? In that same poll, more Democrats, roughly 3/4 or so, want them to fight to stop the Trump agenda. That was different than 2017. In fact, in 2017, about 3/4 wanted them to work with Trump, try to find bipartisan deals and the like. But the Democratic base has a different view. They don't believe their party is fighting hard enough. But the question is, they're in the minority. There's only so much they can do. But that's why it goes back to that first point. It was their first piece of leverage to fight back against Trump, to keep the government open. They needed their votes in the Senate to avoid a government shutdown by March 14th. They had essentially no strategy, no plan. They got nothing in return, and that's what is feeding a lot of this dissatisfaction within the Democratic Party among their own voters.
Yeah, well, later in the show, we're going to be talking to Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton. Of course, we'll be asking about all of this. Thank you so much, Mani Raju, for bringing us the latest, and welcome in person to the Situation Room. So rare to have you here in person.
Is it because the House is in recess?
House and Senate, they're on recess, which I'm okay with.
There you go. There you go.
They're in recess, so you're allowed to come to the Situation Room.
Still working hard. You're not in recess. No. All right, we'll be right back.